Hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. It's your boy Daniel Dumoulin, aka Victor Vaughn, aka Doom, all caps when you spell the man's name. Welcome to our Halloween live stream core updates roundtable. Super excited to have our guests today. We've got Miriam, Jamie, and Dave. We're going to be diving into all things SEO. We're going to be talking about the latest happenings with the DOJ and AI overviews and everything. So we'll kind of unpack what's going on. We'll also talk about how you navigate this current time and space in the SEO world and some action items and things that you can take to your boss or to your clients or whomever it is that you report to. Before we jump in, I have a couple of quick things that I will mention. Number one, huge shout out to today's sponsor, Pre-Render. If you are not already familiar with Pre-Render, they help you get JavaScript pages crawled and indexed. Definitely recommend checking out Pre-Render, especially if your website does use a lot of JavaScript or has pages that are rendered using JavaScript. Check that out in the description below. There's a link for Pre-Render. You can take a look at what they've got to offer. Huge thank you to them for supporting the top of the funnel community and our roundtables and SEO discussions here. Second of all, yes, Kitty, yes. Second of all, I want to invite you to please like and subscribe our to the channel here. First of all, hit the like button on this video. That's going to help other folks find our discussion, join our community, and share their knowledge with us. Second of all, hit that subscribe button. We host regular workshops, Q&As, all day live festivals, all kinds of stuff here on YouTube. So if you want to stay up to date on everything we've got going on here, whether it's SEO or content marketing or something in between, hit that subscribe button. You'll stay up to date on all of the latest videos. And my final thing is I want to invite you to join Tofu. If you're not already a member of Tofu, first of all, I'm shocked and appalled. Second of all, please join us. It's 100% free. It's our community. We have almost 4,500 members now, folks ranging from writers and content people to technical SEO folks. We've got a range of freelancers and contractors, in-house people, agency side folks. It's just a great community for all things content marketing, inbound marketing, SEO, etc. There are questions and answers, people sharing work, getting feedback, sharing their wins, posting their pet pictures. There's work opportunities, all kinds of cool stuff happening inside Tofu. As I said, it's 100% free to join. Just go to jointofu.co and you can join there and sign up for our Slack community. All right, those are my announcements. Let's talk about what's going to happen today. So we are going to be talking with our esteemed panel here about all things SEO. We have a couple of questions kind of queued up, but we are also live. So we want to hear from you. If you're joining us, first of all, drop a comment or a message in the chat. Say hello. Let us know who's joining. Second of all, as we go through these topics, if you have questions that come to mind, please pop those in the chat. We'll do our best to get to those and or at least address them during the conversation. All right. Well, let's do quick intros. Miriam, do you want to kick us off? Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, but first I have to ask, join Tofu. Are you firm? Are you soft? Are you smoked? How are the puns going?
Surprisingly few puns for having a name like Tofu. Yeah.
Oh, we will need to rectify this. So hello, everyone. My name is Miriam Gessier, and I've been in the search industry for more than 15 years. I have a penchant for being pedantic, and I tell people on the internet about things that I discover and what I learn. So I'm going to pass it off to Jamie Indigo. Your turn.
Wait, no, I think you should do mine. I think it'd be better.
I wanted to, so fantastic. I'm taking over.
please,
So
I love
if you don't know about Jamie, let me tell you. They are your non-binary mer person, and if you need a puppeteer, they are here. If you need to figure out a lot of prickly technical problems, they are also here for you. If you can manage to have a mandate that has both, you win the internet.
Perfection, no notes.
Amazing. And last but certainly not least, Dave.
Hi, I'm Dave. I'm a technical SEO and developer. I've been for so long, so tired. No, about 24 years. And yeah, I'm not as good or as interesting as these other two, quite frankly, because I don't even get a Miriam intro.
No, no, no,
Oh,
no, 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 no,
please.
no, no, no. No, okay, let me just stop this. We have a few Halloween traditions and beyond Halloween traditions going with Dave. Every year, I will share pictures of his house, and people think I'm joking. I'm not, okay? It genuinely is his house, and it is perfection for Halloween. The
You
second thing
think
you have
this
to
is a
know is
backdrop. That's just Dave's house.
This
yes,
is my house, yeah.
yes, yes. And if you also are in the market for an abandoned church anywhere in the world that is on a real estate website, me and Dave, we've got your back. That is our little internet like toxic trait. It's not Zillow gone wild, it's churches gone wild. So, ta-da.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. Thank you all so much for the intros here. Super excited to have you all, and just thanks for taking the time to join us. I want to start by talking about perhaps the biggest story in the last couple of months here, which is the DOJ. We've got some updates on the DOJ and sort of the antitrust or like monopoly lawsuit against Google. So first of all, I'd just love to hear high level thoughts on sort of what we have learned so far in that case and how you think it's going to maybe play out for Google and what we might expect. Miriam, do you want to take the first crack at it?
Yes, because we're talking about information dance stuff and information gains here. Let me give you a unique perspective on this. Yes, you've read all about the leaks. I'm a history nerd, so we're going to be talking about something else, okay? History, it doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. We've seen this before. We've seen this before. And where have we seen this? Well, John D. Rockefeller, so his Standard Oil Company, was doing exactly the same type of thing. This whole like monopoly integration, horizontally, vertically, they were going at it. They owned everything. And those antitrust laws and those monopoly considerations from a government standpoint were literally developed to put an end to his company. And now we're using the same framework to address the same problem roughly 120 something years later. So once again, it really, really does give vibes that we've seen this before. And what is most likely going to happen? Well, if you consider history, you look at market dominance, Standard Oil, 88% of the refined oil flows in the US. Google, 90% of the search market. Anti-competitive practices, same here. We see the same thing going with exclusive contracts and, making sure you maintain power and dominance. Legal action and judicial rulings, they're going in the same direction. Potential remedies. Once again, the DOJ is considering both behavioral but also structural solutions to potentially break them up. So once again, I'm seeing all of this, and we have to consider something that most people aren't talking about: the impact on innovation. Dominance in search stifles innovation. We see that. We see that because now we have augmented LLMs that are becoming search assistants. It's a very different ballgame. So what I would say is be a bit more strategic. Look beyond the they lied about this. Oh, they're truly doing this. I think they're gonna do that. And focus on, hey, what's the landscape looking like in the future? How is innovation going? And if they're broken up, then where's the money going to go? Is it going to go in the search industry or maybe the cloud services that they have? And does that mean that our share gets smaller? To be determined.
My favorite soap opera is Google versus the world. I love France is an absolute honey badger. They do not care, and they will go after it. So it's a great example, actually. They lost a massive lawsuit. Google, they being Google, lost a massive lawsuit against France put against them because they were taking publishers, independent newspapers' content and giving it away. And when they lost, it was a big deal. They appealed and they appealed, but the EU, they held strong on it. It was beautiful. They're like, no, data rights. What's up, baby?
Did you see the fake grassroots attempts on social media to, oh, you didn't, because I speak French, so I saw all their grassroots attempts going, no, you have to sign against this, it's unfair. And all the,
it's going to ruin us. So they lose. Look at the smackdown hard. And then what do? They do this thing where, they get a massive fine and they turn it into a new initiative starting in Italy that's helping local publishers. We're partnering with them. They're very good at spinning it. And they're very good at presenting it as a loss to the other party. One of the big reasons they're so deep into AI is the government contracts and what comes with them, because we want these things made locally when I'm in the States. So there are losses to strategic value for the government, which could be a strong bargaining chip. Either way, if they lose, they're going to make it look like they won, and they're going to pivot something and just, put on a Scooby-Doo mask.
Dave, what about your thoughts?
Yeah, very much so. I do think that, particularly of SEOs, we all got incredibly excited about a few leaked slides or slides that came out and stuff. And I think in terms of usefully practically, it was like saying people were looking at that and pointing the fingers. Oh, they do use this. They do that. Oh, they can't read content. Oh, they can do that. I think they need to frame that in the context of that. At that point, Google were probably trying to be not as advanced as maybe they were about certain things. And it was also, invariably it was from like damn near, 10 years ago, some of this stuff. So I think trying to read that and from day to day, what am I going to do as an SEO? Probably not that useful. But I do think it's definitely, like you say, the others say, it's worth keeping an eye on what action will come from and what they can actually split up. Because one of the big things is, how would you meaningfully break Google up? Could you extract ads? So if you extract ads, how would search exist and make money? And and I hate the concept of too big to fail, but it almost is that point, because yes, we have Bing, we have Brave, we have all these other little ones, but they are so big that I don't think that the government would. I mean, we don't know. I don't think they would turn around and rip away ads from search, saying you've got to do something else. Maybe there'll be some policy things like Miriam. I'm based in Europe, not quite Europe now, in the UK, and we've seen things that maybe
Europe-ish.
Europe-ish, and we've seen things like you say the EU tends to have more teeth or certainly more appetite to go after a big national that in the end of the day isn't even EU. It's America. It's a relatively easy target. So we think things already like in our shopping results, we see other shopping comparison sites in there. We see, things like that. There's even an initiative where Google have to share some of the data that they have about search queries and search volumes to competitors if they need to, which I don't think is necessarily something that they're doing yet in the States, because this is the problem. Because if you rip Google down, as much as if I wake up tomorrow and my site's not ranking well, I hate Google. Everyone's going to go to Bing, but the reality is that's not what's happening. 90% of the people are still on Google. So the thing is, I definitely do think that it stifles innovation, like Miriam says. If there aren't strong competitors, Bing just don't seem to be able to quite get to be anything other than basically what they're doing over at Google, but maybe not quite as well, or maybe we'll whack some AI on it, or there's nothing really different. And this is the thing that I think there's not going to be another Google that will come and take Google. If they break things, it will bring other innovations and give them space. So on that basis, that's good, because things need to move forward. But I don't think we're going to see Google deleted overnight. I can see things like Android getting taken away from them, and split off. I can maybe even see Chrome split away. But there'll be a lot of turn and fro, but there is that core prospect and value that ads and Google, Google need ads to be able to provide you with the service. And I'm not crying about their £1 billion profits and all this kind of stuff, but at some point it's going to have to make money, or they ain't going to do it. And I do hope it's done in such a way. I mean, one of the things is obviously they pay Apple an awful lot of money to be their default search. I could definitely see that thing. But even on there's consequences. They also pay Mozilla, they pay Firefox an awful lot of money to be their search. And unless Bing's going to pony up, or Brave or DuckDuckGo are going to pony up that kind of money, Firefox will quite possibly go. Which sounds, is it something we're prepared to lose in the fire? But it is really one of the last true independent browser and render engines out there. And in baying for Google's blood, we should be careful not to kill things like that too.
Wait, Jamie took a sharp inhale, so go, Jamie.
Oh, it's like 60% of their funding. And it's really the true last one where it's easy for a user to understand and block being tracked. So go use Firefox for a day. You'll get a notification.
Yes.
Block 4 gigs of tracking pixel. I'm like, I've been online 2 hours.
Yeah.
But that perspective is so important. Even just being aware of how much you are tracked. We hit the accept button, but we don't necessarily know what that means.
So to recap it, we know that it's probably going to get broken up. We don't know how. We don't know how it's going to impact the entire ecosystem. But on the other end, just like fetch is never going to happen, the metaverse is not taking off this year, okay? It's just not. So we have billionaires that keep trying to build the Web 3.0, that we have destroyed the Web 2.0, and that pipeline ain't happening. So now we're kind of dealt with, we broke everything in the house, and things may start falling apart because no maintenance, and we have to figure it out. And I understand everything Dave has said, and Jamie added onto it, and there's some really bad things on the horizon. But at the same time, I try to maintain hope that through this, we can rebuild a better web. And if you are an SEO wondering, okay, great, they've been talking about this for now, 15, 17 minutes, and I still don't have concrete insights. Yeah, you do. Your career depends on figuring out where your value is and where these things are going. So please take the time to educate yourself, have an opinion that's not ours, and figure it out.
Here's the thing. Technical SEOs are in a really good spot to be, because no matter what happens, bots still got a fall.
True. Here.
And I think it's also true, even if you're in content creation or anything, because you've got to have something to crawl on the people to find.
To crawl, yeah.
While the plays may change and is broken up, the fundamental tenets to create something good and make sure that the important traffic sources can find that aren't going to change. So, it's worth to hold on to those tenets while the things get scary and change around. Realize that there is going to be something for you there tomorrow, because people are still going to be looking for stuff.
You both just kind of jumped right into my next question, which was going to be, if you had to make a prediction today based on what we've seen so far in the DOJ, two questions. One, how realistically do you think that any changes from the DOJ will affect Google's dominance in search? And part two, will that affect how we do or think about SEO? Who wants to jump in on that one first? Miriam?
I have way too many opinions. That is my problem in life. So when it comes to SEO, I think I used to be a librarian before I became an SEO. So I've gone from watching people struggle with like 90s and 2000s catalogs where they could not operate, and I got to see their brains change live, like the plasticity of the brain, people coming to my desk and asking me, like, why can't I find what I want in the book? I'm like, it's called an index, okay, and here's where it is, and here's how the catalog operates. And then I jump to Google, and it's an amazing jump. And then I'm realizing, wow, augmented LLMs are basically search assistants. It's not that I have to do all the pre-thinking, all the keywords, what am I going to search? I can have a conversation with the thing, like some elderly relatives who are like, oh yeah, I saw that show at 9 a.m. and it was like a replay with that blonde lady who's mad at her sister. And you're like, well, an LLM is kind of like, oh, I know who it is. Here's this telenovela from the 70s and it's Mexican. Here you go.
I was going to say, that's a great analogy, the LLM to the librarian, right?
Yeah. And that's why I'm looking at this going, okay, I'm annoyed that I'm going to be creating content that is thought-provoking, that is interesting, and now the returns are diminishing because there's this. We had this discussion with Dave and Jamie throughout since the arrival of LLMs, which is what they're doing is currently they're enabling people who have a lot of money to cut out the middleman. So if you do not have money, you can still become an SEO. Like most of us, I think the
Mm.
three of us didn't go to school for this. There was no diploma. Like, yeah, you see the laughter. Like, we made ourselves, and we are able to earn a decent living thanks to that. So now imagine if you're in content, you're very good, you invest your time, you figure it out, and there's a billionaire coming saying, I'm going to steal all copyrighted material, and then I'm going to try to cut out the middleman, and we're not going to hire writers anymore. And you know what? For technical SEO, we're going to try to do that as well. So now I'm thinking about these ecosystems going, okay, but what does information really mean? And what's the payoff for me to be visible? And wouldn't it be better if I was just creating a community like join tofu.co, where there's a Slack where, people exchange and it's not searchable, but there's some goddamn value there. And if people know, they know. So yes, join tofu.co. But yes, asking yourself these questions and figuring out where your value is. What value do you bring clients? What value do you bring customers? This is what will help you pivot through this changing landscape. Maybe some of your clients, they're going to go through a custom GPT that you're going to help a team help develop. Maybe they're going to go through emails. So as an SEO, you should know which way the wind is blowing. And maybe instead of saying SEO is everything and might makes right, maybe you're going to start working with some colleagues, across the marketing board. Maybe you're going to be working with legal a lot more to figure out what's happening with the content. So that remains to be seen.
I love that. That echoes a lot of the conversations that I've been having around content specifically. I think what has changed in the landscape and what is continuing to change with LLMs, with all the stuff with Google, all of that taken together, is that there's more fragmentation, right? So there's not one playbook, one strategy, one checklist of SEO audit stuff that you can follow, because every business is a little bit unique now, and they're thinking about this stuff in a different way, right? So some companies are betting on the LLM model. Some are thinking like, hey, no, we're going to cling on to the SEO strategy that's worked in the past. Some are thinking about using AI to generate content. Others are totally against it. And so I think the key right now is sort of figuring out, based on those dimensions, like, where do you fall? Where are your skills most valuable? And then finding those types of clients or those types of companies that align with those sort of predictions or values. Would love to get additional thoughts on that. Jamie, it's been a while since we heard from you. You want to chime in?
There is so much value right now in knowing how to read the Latin.
Yeah.
Leadership here is a very buzzy concept. Here's something that's quite exciting in the business world. Hey, remember when this one company randomly added the name Bitcoin into their title, or crypto? They did crypto. They made lemonade, and their stock skyrocketed. It's that kind of thing. People get excited about a concept, whether or not the product actually represents that. Being able to translate and help cut through some hype, help set expectations on things is incredibly useful right now, because it's easy to be excited, but we live in a world where the metaverse doesn't have legs. So
yeah, for sure. Dave, how about you? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, I do think that the LLM stuff is super interesting, but I actually don't think that's going to be a longer term threat to great content, because it's always going to be a little bit mass produced. But then again, people buy ready meals. It's going to be the microwave simple ready meal for something, but it's not what people are going to enjoy. It's not what people are going to seek out. And I think where the real revolution is, which kind of comes back to what I said earlier, I don't think there'll be another Google, is I think it's about agents. The LLMs kind of work like that, ChatGPT, etc. They become personal agents for you to research and to do things. And you will have a personal experience. It will get to know you. It will get to know what you like. And so us as content creators, kind of like now, Google has, 10 blue links minus the ads and whatever else they throw on there. But there's 10 spots. And it's kind of like trying to write a song that's number one for everybody. I want to be number one. That's your only success. Not everybody could be number one. We can't all be Rihanna. We can't be, so and so. But hey, it's like, say, you've got the Doom mask on. There's other music. There's rock music. And people have their favorite bands, and they will love them beyond all kinds of things. So I think that's what content will become more. It'll become more authentic, and businesses, they will be tailored. It'll be a case of write for your tribe and find your tribe, and then your tribe will find you.
Yeah.
And it's so much less than it is now, where it's very blunt. You have to be populist to do well. You want to sell shoes, okay, maybe you'll sell cowboy boots or you'll sell, Wellingtons or something. But if you want to sell shoes, people will search blue shoes. It'll show you all the different types of people who have blue shoes, and then people start refining down. In the future, I don't think that will be that. And so it will be, I know the kind of clothing, I know the kind of music, I know the kind of literature that my user is entering. They've become the true user agent for you, or will do eventually, and you will ask it to do something and it will competently do that, and it will feed you back stuff. But I don't think it will feed you back the article that you read in long form on their thing. I think that's where things like Perplexity and like the art browser are kind of getting it wrong a little bit at the minute, because they're kind of just doing a hash job of, I can definitely see a little overview. And in some ways, as a creator, if I've created an overview and someone's not interested in reading that, that's not really a great loss to me. But if they're rewriting my article badly, then yes, that is an annoyance. And that's kind of where we are now. I think there'll be regulatory things that come in against that possibly. But I think people will generally turn away from it. Just like you wouldn't want to listen to a few AI snippets of songs that sound like your favorite bands. You want to listen to your favorite bands.
Right.
And it's all this kind of like the old eat stuff that people get themselves in a furor about. Is it rank single? Is it not? It's going to become desperately important, because you're going to need to be authentic. Doesn't mean necessarily an expert, doesn't necessarily think, but you have to appeal to that person. You have to find your fan base.
I think that's such a great point. I think the analogy there that I like to make is like, people talk about like the monoculture, right? So like, Google is what top 40 radio was, right, in the past, right, where everybody listened to top 40 radio, everybody listened to, knew the same bands generally, right? Now you've got all these new ways that people discover music. You've got algorithms that curate music that you might like based on music that you've liked in the past. I think that's a great point, Dave, that AI sort of ushers in that era for everything, for all content, right, and all information, really, right? So you can be, your content is sort of curated by AI, by your preferences, by the things that you've done in the past, and so there is no one channel or strategy or playbook for reaching the right people. I love that. Miriam, I apologize. I saw you were going to jump in.
I just wanted to say that I barely use Google nowadays except for local stuff, because I have ADHD and Perplexity is so great for my brain. Like, I'm not looking for information. I'm looking for dopamine, okay? I'm not just looking for information before I make an educated, really thoughtful decision. I'm running on impulse, okay? I need to know what Metropolis, the movie, could potentially look like if Michael Bay was doing it. So, when it comes to personal assistance, for me personally, I see this as a figure out my messy mind and find information. And once I have refined everything and I still cannot find the right thing I trust, maybe let me go to Google, or maybe let me ask my friend Jamie. So it's one of those things where I fundamentally think we need to pay attention to user behavior, because I've seen some companies where clients will come and go, "Can you audit? We have a technical issue." And I'm like, "No, hun. You can pay me as much as you want, but we can see through the data that people in Mexico are using your product less because they're searching for it less, because there's something else that does the job, or maybe they don't need it anymore because trends." So Google is reflecting this more and more, because their business depends on it as well. But also, we have to consider, okay, we can't SEO all the things, because sometimes it's another platform, it's another experience, it's a back and forth, it's a loop, it's doing 50 things at the same time. And if those 50 things don't happen, then that Google search doesn't happen either. So this is where I think that we have to look beyond continuing what we used to do the way we used to do it. We have to figure out, where do we show up? Because now it's no longer just an aggregate. It's, for example, I have some clients, they can't track dark social, but my God, are those Facebook groups working hard to get them clients, and they don't even know about it. So for us, it will also mean paying more attention to these things, being more reactive to this if we do SEO, to capture, oh, We know mochi ice cream is popular right now in our store because an influencer talked about it. Let us optimize the page. Heck, let us make sure that the page is online because we're a grocery store and half of our stuff is not. So the game is changing.
I love that, and I think that's a great segue because I want to pose this question to Jamie. So Jamie, are you changing anything that you're actually doing day to day based on all of these trends and observations that we are discussing right now?
It's a lot of, you have to be fairly curious right now. You have to be burrowed into your CDM, burrowed into your log files, watching and observing. There's a big gap, and knowing when that movement's coming is absolutely key. It's kind of the early warning indicator.
So right now you're kind of in observation mode, monitoring mode, but you haven't really made major changes to sort of your day-to-day approach.
I mean, I'm the director of technical SEO at 2 of the largest automotive sites online. It's a lot. So the day-to-day is never really day-to-day. That's, I think, part of being a director. Like, you go to a new project, you help a new team, you move forward on that. So a lot of aspects of it haven't changed at all, because that's been the same. It looks a little bit different. I'm annoying new people. I love my Akamai and my security operations team. Thank you for letting me bug you all the time, beautiful creature. But yeah, finding out what bots are doing, which bots are doing what, is really, really interesting.
And as a director, Jamie, are you allocating any specific portion of your resources or budget to these new things? Like, how are you thinking about that in terms of, 80% going to what we've always been doing and 20% going to, exploring or testing some of these new things? Or how are you thinking about that?
I mean, the same principles still apply. The same kind of things of, hey, we're going to approach this angle. This time we're going to use these tools. Here's what our output is going to look like. Here's how it's going to change the experience and reward the business. That piece is the same. Like, as a tech SEO, I've been in so many stacks, and they're all unique, beautiful butterflies. And most of my jobs there involve going, oh, look, a new nook, look, a new cranny. Oh, wait, a blind spot here. These are how these things interact. Here's how I can connect really brilliant people to do amazing things. That's not different.
Yeah. That makes sense. Sort of a first principles kind of approach, right?
Yeah.
Dave,
no, I'm not buying tools to do AI things and this and that.
Okay. Yeah, good to know. Okay, so zero allocation to that right now. Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
I have a tinfoil hat moment, and it will be very short. So, just like during the pandemic, I told myself, McDonald's sounds more like a real estate company than a fast food restaurant. I was like, oh my God, that's not a tinfoil theory. It's real. So, I'm appreciating the refueling behind the mask. And so, I am feeling more and more like a Microsoft Word trainer in the 80s and 90s. Let me explain. So you have Mac and you have PC. PC made it onto the mainstream after entering the workplace. People learned how to use it, took it back home. But you have to know how to fix that stuff for it to work. Mac is more magical. You pay the Genius bar, it comes back. Okay, hear me out. I've been looking at Microsoft a lot and thinking to myself, they know they're not going to be able to take Google on. They know they're never going to be as cool as TikTok. What are they doing? They are financing government projects to develop AI workflows, to actually teach people how to integrate Copilot into their lives. So it's giving me, once again, something we've seen before. Okay. And when I tell you this because I currently am finalizing a contract where I'm gonna be paid to do an ethnographic study of a specific group within different companies, and it's paid by the government. I won't say which one, to help them develop these AI workflows, to understand how they retrieve information, how they interact with this information, how they search. And I'm seeing Microsoft's play going, you know what? We know that people think it's cool, but it's not sustainable because they don't actually know how to build the use cases for it. Let us pay people to teach them and let us do what we know how to do quite well. And that's why, when I hear people saying, hey, their day to day hasn't changed, I'm like, not yet, but the lobbies are here.
Yeah. That is true. We should put that in context, right? We obviously all of this stuff is constantly in flux, and we're still early days, really, when you think about it, right? So a lot of room for things to change. Dave, what about you? Has has anything changed in your approach to SEO, or your day to day?
Yeah. No. Yes and no. Yeah. It has, of course. You have to look out. You have to see what's coming across the horizon, and I think that is part of your job as an SEO. That is part of your thing, is to look what's coming. We don't know the future, but we can get we can catch what's maybe lurking around the corner, see a few glimpses of it. But at the end of the day, for the day to day, what you do for a site, whichever way we go, it's always going to need to be accessible, good content, and I think the days of like, oh well, now I've got to change everything because ChatGTP doesn't use this H1, it uses H2, or or it needs to be 3 paragraphs longer, or stuff. It's not going to change. And obviously, you've got to be cognizant of these things have agents. Particularly if you're a tech SEO, you've got to be cognizant that if I've got the latest client side rendered thing, are these new sources been able to think? But that's the kind of thing that you kind of should be doing already. So it's kind of maybe adding a few more nuances. Even in terms of where you're creating, even in terms of what you're doing, you should already be creating great content that speaks to your users. And this fundamentally doesn't change that role. There maybe expands it. It may be a future where you're looking into more different areas. You might think, well, this client's going to completely blow up on this kind of service, whereas now maybe we only really need to look at Google and maybe Bing, if we're getting up to scale and Bing traffic becomes meaningful and stuff like that. So yeah, you've got to cast your net a little wider maybe, but keep in mind that not everything's got the same capabilities. So design for the lowest common denominator. And then, if you're good for that, then you're pretty much good for all of them. And I think that's basically where it's changed the most, is just maybe a few things you just need to keep an eye out for. But the fundamental tenets of it, what we're doing here, hasn't, until people stop creating websites and stop selling them, and stop selling on websites and start publishing on websites, which I don't see is going to happen for an awful long time.
Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. And I think that sets up a great follow-up question for Miriam, which is, how are you measuring this kind of stuff for clients and customers, Miriam? Are you trying to track, traffic from ChatGPT, or how are you approaching that?
I'm obsessed with this. So let me explain. I'm currently working on a project with a client where we're genuinely wondering, hey, do we even create a custom GPT for people to ask their questions so we can have control over what's coming out in terms of answers? Because they're in the legal field and they're like, we need control right now. So what do we do? And on top of this, I've been pondering, okay, so as Jamie said, bots are always going to be there. Are we also excluding from analytics some of the traffic that these assistants are doing for us because they are bot avatars, but they still represent human wants and needs? So what's happening with that? But on top of it, I'm also wondering, okay, great, but we have perplexity pages, for example, where you can see there was a very big spike in the traffic these curated pages created, but you see it coming down as well. So is it still worth our while? How is it going to take off? Was it just a hype? So these are the things I'm paying attention to. And when it comes to this, I'm just like everyone else. I'm a halfway, the path is illuminated and we have some hints. And the other half, it's either a black box or a trying to figure out with SEMrush if the hype is going to die down. Like it's a lot of touch and go. So for me, for example, I think of search differently because I'm in a different context currently, which is, are the people that are using this technology finding what they need? Is the quality of the output enough that we want to continue doing this? And this is where it gets a bit hazy. So I ask my clients, like, hey, what are the key things that somebody would probably look for in an LLM when it comes to you? And we test this out, and if they see that the competition is coming up, let me tell you, I'm getting clients that are like, hey, we're setting some budget aside for this experimental gig because we're not. Yeah, so the way I operate is we try to measure what we can, what makes sense, but we understand that these are trends, these are directions, they are not exact things that we're used to. And on another note, Monsieur Victor, I have a question for you because I want to know from your crowd as well. Is everyone like me, and are we now able to spot certain patterns like, oh, you wish you could ask this from an LLM, or oh, that keyword is totally a TikTok trend? Like, I can pinpoint TikTok trends in a keyword list now. I'm good. I figured these linguistic patterns out. So, when it comes to tracking these things, like, it's not just pure numbers, it's also a lot of qualitative data. And I want to know, like,
Mm,
where people are at with this.
mm. Yeah, that's a good
What
question.
what's one of the keywords where you went, "Ooh, that one's a bit weird," and then you figured out it was either TikTok or a meme or something?
Yeah, I mean, I can't think of a specific example off the top of my head, but I know there have been cases where, yeah, I've run into that where I see something and it's a little strange, or in some cases, I'm not very hip on the TikTok trends, but every once in a while, I'll recognize something that I know is from a TikTok or from something. The other big one that I see a lot is are queries that come from like some kind of like a test or like a certification where people have like these really long queries that are like very specific nuanced things, and that's usually if I trace it back, that's usually where it comes from, is some certification or test or something.
The reason why I asked this question, and I promise I will let others talk after, it's just a lot of info dumping because I'm excited, is the interaction between technology and humans. So what we don't realize is that, for example, Spotify needed to create clusters to determine what kind of music we're gonna like, right? And in the process of doing this, they had to put labels on these things. So then we end up with non-traditional musical genre, like 6,000 musical styles were created thanks to Spotify, and humans are using them. And now they're becoming a thing. They're becoming a pattern. They're becoming a habit. And TikTok does the same. And we see it reflected across the web ecosystem. And that's what I mean by it's nice to always chase the technical stuff. And I know technical SEO can be a bit daunting for some people, but follow the human element. You've got this. Like, it's not easy necessarily to pinpoint, but we all have our own machine learning. We pick
Yeah.
up on these things and they give us an edge. They give us that little opportunity gap, like in the beginning of SEO, where you're going to go, ooh, they haven't noticed. And you do this and it gets fun. And then everybody else on boards, and you're like, that's fine. I already built my brand. I'm good. I can take it to somewhere else.
Yeah. Miriam, if I can, I want to ask one quick follow-up of you, and then I'm going to ask the same question to Jamie. You mentioned monitoring these things for your clients and customers. Any quick bullet point trends that stand out to you in terms of changes in how people are finding information or getting to your site, or making purchases or anything like that?
Yes. So you need to start paying attention to specific use cases. You know how we said the year of voice, and people were like, we're all going to be asking vocal things out of our assistants. It's like, no, if my hands are like knuckle deep in a dough and I'm trying to find out the next step in the recipe or call someone, of course I'm going to use voice. But it's not, we don't use one thing for everything at the end of the day. We're butterflies, we
Mm,
kind of stumble across. So pay attention to the traffic that comes out. It's very easy with certain user agents and you can like suss it out. I know that Crystal Carter did a wonderful job summarizing this
mhm,
information actually. So FYI, but you can also start paying attention to some of the data that the tools give you and go, hey, this doesn't look quite right. This doesn't fit the patterns I know. And maybe it's me because I have a sociology degree, but I don't think you need a sociology degree to be able to pay attention to the humans you care about. So when
mm,
it comes to tracking, pay attention to the linguistic structure, pay attention to the bots coming on your site, and pay attention as well to, hey, by country maybe, or by segment, what's going on with our keywords? What's going on with how we're showing
mm,
up in search, in Google search? Are we less popular, and is the reason purely SEO and a technical issue, or is it an economic human behavior thing that Google is reflecting basically?
mm. I love that. Yeah, yeah, super helpful. Jamie, so same question to you. As you're managing the sites there in your role, are you seeing anything in the patterns, any trends or anything that you have sort of glommed onto?
I mean, you have to drop a lot of assumptions. You have to start dropping pre-built reports and filters and
Mm,
looking at raw data a little bit more, taking a
hmm
step back to catch pieces. I love that idea. I'm just going to go and just understand TikTok, like searching for our key terms, things we care about. Are they there? If not, if we looking at changes like in branded traffic, that's a big one. When branded traffic changes, is the audience who's looking for you in a new place? And then how do you follow that through? Are you represented in that realm?
Mm-hmm. And is that something usually you see in the data and then you sort of go investigate it from like a user perspective?
There is so much data in my world that I have to bring a curiosity to someone who is brilliant and ask them. And then usually I have to go on like a side quest to get another thing and connect this piece. But they come back with really interesting pieces, and connecting new data in new ways and new angles has been so important. Like we have to be aligned more than ever.
Mm-hmm. Great. That's interesting. Dave, I'd love to get your insight. Are you seeing anything across, client or customer data, any particular trends that you've noticed in terms of how people are coming to the site, or upticks in certain LLM usage or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm beginning to see a little bit more. I think because it is new and it is growing, we're going to see a little bit of ChatGTP traffic, a little bit of Perplexity traffic, but it's still very minimal for most, to be honest. I think it varies very much so. One thing I am finding it in is the quality of traffic maybe not so good sometimes. Like for example, a lot of my clients re-com, say they're selling a technical bit of kit, then the users maybe aren't looking directly for that kit. They're looking for something about it or some information, and they come along and have a look. But yeah, it is interesting. We do see certain product types and product groups, and it can be different across even one site. So you might have part of the site that's still very much traditional search, and that's the way that people find you, particularly maybe for product where they're looking for something hyper specific. People aren't really quite so much looking for hyper specific on the LLMs, it seems. Maybe they don't know quite what they want. They know they want something about it. Maybe they'll use that to go and chat. And so you kind of get traffic in, and then that traffic tends to wander around a little bit more because they're not as laser focused as bringing you to the one particular model of whatever it is. They're bringing you maybe to category pages of where that kind of thing is. But, or maybe they're still in the same places, and those people are having to do a little bit more work once they get there. But yeah, I mean, that's it. I don't think it's going to be one true rule of what's happening for every site, because every site is going to be different. Every niche is going to be different. Every demographic is going to be different. Particularly if you've got a product set or content that appeals to an older generation, maybe you're going to see something if you're like hip and trendy, super wonderful, brand new, shiny, super fashion, or something where maybe the youth are going to be looking at the youth. Get off my lawn and onto the LLM. But maybe they are going to be looking at things of Perplexity. So I don't think it's a one size fits all answer to that question at the minute anyway.
Yeah.
Dave,
Yeah.
you're probably worried about the category pages that Google is gobbling up, because now for e-commerce, very often you'll have like all the filters now. They learned from your category pages. They're taking up this for you. And now maybe as a content person, you should be focusing on really working into what's the differentiator for that product. But that also means that, hey, technical SEO, you thought half of the inventory didn't really matter, because no, it does. And to what Dave was saying, hey, we still need websites. Dave, I'm already asking myself the question in the shower, do I even need a website? If I have a merchant center, like a feed, and I can pour my inventory anywhere, do I really need that infrastructure? Do I really need that on top of my shoulders? I'm not saying we do or we don't, but these are the questions that I ponder. And I want to know something. Can we talk about information gains? Because I feel like a lot of people are talking about this.
Yes. Yeah. Well, first of all, I think that's a great point about, sort of the future of the web, and, do we need a website or not? I think that is, maybe that's not the right question for every company, but it's very indicative, I think, of the time that we're in right now, where there's sort of a fundamental rethink about such things that like we have taken for granted for whatever 25 years, right? And now it's like, wait, do we actually need this, or is this the right strategy? So thanks for bringing that up. Miriam, talk to us about information gain. What's on your mind there? You're muted.
So,
There you go.
no, I was just sighing deeply. But when you go on a recipe site and you're like, I want the goddamn fucking recipe and not your grandma's entire history. I don't want to know who brought apples to your continent. Like
But Mima,
this. What?
but Mima's story of hardship is so important. You have to earn this cornbread.
That's my problem. You can copyright Mima's story, but you can't copyright the recipe. So for me, it's kind of I have an impatience. I'm impulsive. I need to have the information I'm seeking rather fast. And the problem is that sometimes my brain can't even handle that information because our CPUs have been hijacked by reels and short content, and we're hamsters now, which is great because now the world is kind of coming to my level. So I'm like, welcome. It's been a battlefield from the start for me. But what does it mean in today's world? Because Google kind of trained people. You need to create really long content that is really full, that is really informative, kind of like book publishers, actually, that would ask you to write this many words. Otherwise, they don't pay you the advance. So you're kind of bullshitting your way through, right? And you're trying to do incrementally just tiny bit better than the other bullshitter before you. And now, well, that no longer works. So we're kind of stuck, and everyone is getting excited about delivering value, nuanced takes that are easy for humans to process so they can get the most out of it in under a minute or in a snapshot. And it's like, yeah, that's what we're really good at as humans, actually. It's just that it implies you're working a lot harder as a marketer because you can't serve us reheated crap.
Which is why your page load matters. And I need you to put, like, maybe fewer marketing pixels in the head, my guy. Please.
Just the 10 is enough.
No, but it's real though. Like there's some stuff where, there's a notion of a progressive disclosure. You introduce new information gradually and you build upon previously established knowledge to manage, like our intrinsic cognitive load, how overloaded we get. Okay. So this ties into our work as technical SEOs because it's like, do you really need that hero banner there? Like that giant freaking thing that you're also lazy loading?
Or the blog post that takes the entire above the.
We're just very angry people.
Self-censorship happening right now. Okay.
But it's real. It's real, and it's content, and it's technical, and it's everything. The web should be better. And I love the fact that people are waking up and putting fancy words onto this. But realistically, we've had this. Like as a French person, I remember I was taught this because we are taught like propaganda and figuring out censorship and all of this very early on. The press used to be super wide and varied, and that brought a lot of things. And hey, harkens to what Google was doing in the beginning, which is great. That was a golden era. It was like an early attempt at information gain. We all separate ourselves, we have all our own thing. And then what happens? It's kind of like a crabs in a bucket. We're kind of keeping each other down because then you have to be more sensational than the next guy, right? And you have to basically just prioritize a minute headline differentiation to say, I'm different. I'm treating it as slightly differently. And it's like, yeah, but no. And in French, we have this expression. It's called butt fucking flies. It's literally like, it's an exercise in futility. And then the press started collapsing and we had to rebuild what journalism means. And that meant for the French approach, it's blending like factual reporting and intellectual discourse. And sometimes it's just them sounding really artsy fartsy, but still. And they're really trying to shape the media culture. So they're going to go for depth over sensationalism. They're going to favor unique perspective, and they're going to be really into data informed reporting, looking at the numbers and bringing you stories from a different angle that really matters. And I love the fact that as marketers, we have to completely redefine this, kind of like we're startup bros going, we have reinvented the coffee machine. It's like, no, it's basic communication. We just have to learn how to do it well again.
Okay, so I wanna tap in, Dave, on this question. So thanks for bringing up the idea of information gain. You talked about, you know, the sort of incrementally longer content. I think right now there's sort of an existential debate amongst content folks. You know, is the path forward longer, more comprehensive content, or is it shorter, you know, more specific content? So I'd love to just do a quick round with everyone. In your opinion, you know, content moving forward from an SEO perspective, should it be longer or shorter than it has been sort of historically? Dave, I'd love to hear your thought first.
I think it's an impossible question because it should be the length it needs to be. You know, shorter, longer. Yeah, I think there has been a general thing that maybe people have padded out stuff far too much. Although personally, I would like to say that I don't eat any recipe unless I know at least 5 generations who died to bring it me. So don't get rid of that story. But yeah, I mean, I think people are beginning to learn to get the point across. But it's like Miriam was saying, you know, with the French press and stuff, you still have to cover all the information. And sometimes your content is there to entertain. It is the product. The product is the article that you think. Sometimes you just need to tell people, you know, this is how much it costs, this is how quickly you can get it, and these are the things that it does. So, you know, it's kind of know your audience. So yes, I think there has been, you know, a general push, you know, to make stuff too long. So I think it will get shorter. People can pull it back, but they need to focus on it, and they don't need to throw the baby out with the bathwater and just make things, you know, you don't want to go the other way. That, you know, I don't think Google ever did need, you know, a 2,000 word minimum, you know, but likewise, it isn't now a 500 word maximum, and you haven't got to throw everything out. So yeah, things maybe can get, you know, you don't need to write to fill space. There's no need for filler, but don't also make it pointlessly short.
Great. Yeah, that's helpful. Jamie, what about you? Thoughts, shorter or longer?
Length doesn't matter. Whether or not you're going to give me more trust issues does.
Say more.
15 seconds of content. I don't want to spend 15 seconds loading it. Adapt.
You sound like you're complaining about Tinder.
I mean, it's kind of the same. Swiping right and then clicking on a result is the same effect. Like, I'm going to choose to engage with you. And then a lot of times it leads to disappointment. Don't be that disappointment.
Amen. Miriam, you sort of pegged onto or grabbed onto the idea of the long recipe. So are you camp shorter or longer?
So it's an unusual stance for me, but I'm the co-founder of Neurospicy Agency, so I focus on neurodivergent marketing. And for example, if you're going to talk to an autistic engineer, most of them absolutely hate marketing because they're like, I want to know everything that I need to figure out before I talk to my boss to know if it's even worth talking to you. And then what do? Of course, you need long content, but it doesn't even need to be in your blog. It needs to be in your knowledge base. So I agree with everyone saying, yeah, short is not always the answer, long is not always the answer. I don't care. Because as long as the story is good, people are going to hang on to it. So it really depends on what you're going to structure. What is it going to look like? So going back to, once again, cognitive load. How overloaded are we? And if you figure out, you know, like, hey, can I chunk this information? Can I break down complex information into manageable segments? That works. If you can use visual aids to replace some of the content because that works better for your crowd, go for it. If you can introduce the notion of progressive disclosure, as I said, like, you know, hey, tell me these things as we go, because there's nothing worse than having a short content where you feel like you have to Google half of the stuff you read in the first sentence. That's not short content that works. It's not. So
Yeah.
it's human stuff. And I will say something else. I know everybody and their mother is convinced that they are straight to the point and that they're pertinent and all of this, but redundancy just murders my brain. And people feel like they need to repeat everything like they're Donald Trump weaving all over. No, the weave does not work. Can we please stop? So if anything, I will end by saying, I know, Jamie, sorry. But very often I will challenge myself and tell an LLM, hey, can you rewrite this thing that I just read or that I just wrote in an information dense manner that retains all of the nuances so someone at this level can understand it? And if it
Yeah.
comes up with something that is more elegant than the redundant thing I thought was good, of course I'm learning. Of course I'm happy. And it's developing that skill, knowing that you communicated properly with someone the things that matter that you should be focused on, not the length. And if people are saying, yeah, but I do need a length, then figure out the topic, figure out how others are doing it, figure out how you can do it better, and then you'll know the length. You should
Mhm.
not be measuring like I will go. I don't know if they're defunct yet, but Forever 21, their dresses, I cannot wear them. They will never cover my butt. They never will. It's too short. I know it's too short. I know I need to get extra stuff from somewhere else, like leggings, to figure it out. That metaphor for your company, that means that people are looking at this information somewhere else because you made it too short and they need extra
Mm.
support somewhere else. So you need to be strategic. And I think that's what it comes down to for all of us. We keep talking from a position where we're senior and we've seen it most of what is out there when it comes to SEO. And it's like, yeah, we come from a place where we are strategic, develop that strategic sense to be able to navigate your content.
That's a great note to end on. Y'all, we are at our hour. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much. Miriam, Jamie, Dave, thank you so much for joining us for today's conversation. Thanks for all of your insights. It's been great. And thanks y'all for who joined us. Thank you for the comments. I love the the banter happening in the chat. This has been wonderful. Yeah. Any final words from anyone on our panel here?
I want to know if you actually did this on purpose. How did you select all of us?
all praise due to David, the community manager at Tofu, for arranging the guests and sort of coordinating everything there, and obviously put together an amazing panel.
Dave, thank you for giving us an opportunity to get dressed this sassily. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
I think you
Indeed,
can find
indeed.
us all on LinkedIn, but please don't send me an invite for link juice.
And
Yeah.
last but not least, remember, folks, join tofu.co. See you there.
Indeed.
You beat
Send
me
me my
to it.
grandma's recipes.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah. Well, thank you all again so much for joining us. Thank you for your questions, and thank you for your responses. Yeah, hit the jointofu.co, join us inside the Slack community, and hit the like and subscribe. Thanks again, y'all. Have a good day and happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Au revoir.
Bye bye.
Happy spookies.